Hey, Sandy MacKay here with MacKay Realty Network. And in this video, I'm excited to share with you the difference between traditional thinking and maybe a little bit crazy or out there thinking, but how that sort of modern day thinking can really impact your journey in your life as an entrepreneur or as an investor, and just the subtle differences in mindset that I've learned over the years and that I think you can learn from too. So we're going to start with the traditional thinking and what that really looks like. And what most people think about in life is they think about the three different stages of life. They think about early on in their journey of life, they really focus a lot of energy on learning. It's a phase where you're growing up, you're a child, you need to be educated so that you can make it in this world. And there's a heavy emphasis on education for most people's first at least 20 years of their life, sometimes even 25, 30 years. And the goal of that is to what? To transition then into more of a work-based life where they're going to the office 8, 10, 12 hours a day, and they're most of their life, half of their living life, up to 12 hours can be focused primarily on work. And after that phase, once they get to 60 plus years old, the hope and the dream is that you're going to be able to now spend a similar amount of time on playing, retirement stage of life. And that's supposed to be an exciting time where you get to play and just live life and not have to worry about working or educating yourself as much. And that's kind of the cycle of what people go through in life is those three focus areas. And that's how they spend their time. And so that's a very traditional mindset and not necessarily anything wrong with it. But for most people today in 2023, to be successful, to live a life that you're really proud of and happy with, to achieve, to be fulfilled, I think you really need to consider spending your time a little bit differently and probably looking a little bit crazy to some people because you're spending an abnormal amount of time on the learning side of things. And with that, also spending time on work, but also the playing side, the quote unquote retirement side, not just when you're 60 plus, but all throughout your entire journey in life, ultimately day by day if you can. And of course, you're not going to be able to live it every single day in that manner, but the goal ultimately would be to have a third of your day spent around the learning phase, a third of it in the work phase, and a third of it in that play phase. Learning, working, and playing. Those become the three categories. And rather than blocking them out into segments of your life in terms of decades of your lifespan there, a more modern day thinking, what I would call more of a thriving millionaire sort of mindset would be to implement those three areas across every day of your life and look for ways to implement more learning, more playing in your work life, not be so focused on just the working side, which is what most people are when they're in that working phase of their life, their mid decades of their life. And lots of ways you can do that. But what most people, their daily schedule might look like is they wake up, they rush around in the morning, they go to work, they come home, they think about more work, they maybe play around their phone in a work-related manner. Maybe they get a few moments of playing there with the family, having some fun, and they go to sleep and then they do it all over again. And so most people really drastically miss out on the learning side. And so they give up on that because that was the early phase of their life. That was before they were 20. They learned all they can. They don't need to focus on that anymore. And you really miss out on a very large amount of growth when you focus on that and you start spending time just in working and maybe some small amount of playing, but ultimately still you're kind of pushing that out to the end of life and hoping that there's going to be some fulfillment or some satisfaction in that at the end. You're really, really doing your life a disservice, I think, in thinking that way and planning out your life that way. So what most people should spend some more time on is finding time for that learning-based time, finding time to spend time with themselves, with others learning and growing and developing themselves. Because when you do that, you're going to be able to thrive a lot more at work, and you're going to be able to actually afford and want to spend time in that playing phase, the having things of life. And there's this movement out there called the Be Do Have movement, something I learned a lot about when I started working in the real estate world. We started talking about, in order to have something, you need to first be something. You need to first be that person who's capable of deserving that material possession or that benefit of life that you're looking for. And you can't just have something without being that person that deserves it first. And so a lot of emphasis in my life has been focused on that being side. And what I found is that spending a lot more time on that all of a sudden kind of lost that playing side of life, and it kind of ebbs and flows back and forth. But the ultimate, I think, version of that is to spend a pretty equal amount of time in the working, the learning, and the playing side of life every day of your life, and be able to experience all those together as one whole stage of life rather than segmenting them into different phases of life. And so if you can think about that and look at your schedule, if you can spend more time on the learning side of life so that you can become the person who has an amazing work life, who can now take what they've built through their work life and implement it into an amazing, playful journey of life after work, outside of work. And that's kind of that having phase of life. You can really find yourself being content in all three areas. And they all blend together and work really nicely together, rather than segmenting them out into their separate areas. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Hopefully you can find some ways to implement that in your life, in your scheduling, and build some habits around that are going to help you succeed and be ultimately more successful, but also more fulfilled. And so that's what I've implemented in my life, and I've built the whole schedule around that. We'll share more in future videos, but I would love to hear feedback on that model and that new modern way of thinking. Hopefully that helps you, and share the video, make some comments. Would love to hear your feedback. Talk to you soon.